There's a lot of news about the rare earth mineral. How is India managing it right now?
Rare earth are extracted from ores in different geological deposits across the world. These rare earths are really elements which go into making a magnet, which is then used in EV or in defense vehicles or in multiple applications.
So battery as a service is coming out to be a very cost efficient. How it is going to help in the EV adoption? How are you seeing it?
Battery, as we know, is 40 to 60% of the cost of the vehicle. If you can solution for it in slightly a different way, then it becomes easier to adopt.
Very, very technically sound founders who come out of colleges and they build like something really amazing. Is there some specific gap that you would like to mention wherein these startups are not getting the money?
Investors expect you to show good, strong unit economics, which means that you are not burning truckloads of cash on every unit you sell.
India has got a great AI ambition. Definitely it is going to impact the climate a lot. So do you think that we need to set up a very clear roadmap?
We are ready for this AI revolution that has already started.
And how about the policies of Government of India?
I think there has been
Welcome to another episode of the Vision Grid. Today we have another excellent founder on the board. This episode is going to be special because this is first woman entrepreneur on our board. She has spent 22 plus years into corporate and investment banking in the top banks of the world. And apart from that, she has been a founder of Ostara Advisors, which is into climate tech investments. Hello Vasudha, how are you doing today?
very good. Thank you so much for having me here. And it's fantastic to be here. Thank you so much.
Great. So Vasudha, for my audience, people who are EV enthusiasts, who are interested into electric vehicles and climate tech are my key audience. So they would like to understand more about you. So a bit of introduction about you, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And my name is Vasudha Madhavan. I'm an investment banker by profession. And what we started really, so my life in this profession started more than 2 decades ago. And the beginnings were, in the heart of high finance or corporate finance in ICICI Bank. And then when I moved to Citibank, I got the unique opportunity to set up something for the bank, which was in the financial sponsor space. So I set up their private equity financial sponsor coverage in City India in 2006
Okay.
to 9, 3 years or so I spent in that role. I spent a year or so also in the M&A side of things, and then worked a little bit in the credit side of it. So I spent about 5 odd years in Citibank. I think what that role taught me was I could take up initiative in a new area and work on something which I did not have prior experience in, and could actually set up something from scratch. And I had the enthusiasm and the sort of resourcefulness to put together something for our clients, which were all private equity and global hedge funds, build relationships and offer the bank's platform in a meaningful way to these clients and set up a good profitable business for the bank. After this, I was again after about 10 odd years with ICICI and Citibank, I was a bit restless. I wanted some new challenges, and that led me to entrepreneurship. I decided that I needed to do something which was a bit more sector focused, which was a bit more concentrated and focused on areas, few areas that you could go deeper into, rather than covering a wide range of areas. And so as I was exploring this, I basically came across this concept of boutique investment banking, where I could do more sector focused work. I decided to start up my own firm in 2015, and when I did that, it was just serendipity that EVs happened to me. I came in touch with a company called Greaves Cotton, whose CEO was newly appointed. He came in from the US. He had a good knowledge of and understanding of the latest developments that were happening globally in automotive, and obviously EVs were starting to happen. This was way back in 2016, 17 timeframe, and as it happened, I got to know the one of the first earliest entrepreneurs in India in the EV space, which is Hemalata Annamalai, founder of Ampere Vehicles.
Okay.
And as I got to know her and her company just a little bit, I kind of realized that they needed capital, and I also realized that Greaves was looking to invest or potentially could think about it strategically. So when I broached this idea, it's just something that which immediately resonated with Nagesh, and he invited me to join him as his advisor, become his advisor, the company's advisor, to help make this investment happen. So that is how, and that deal was India's very first M&A deal in the electric two-wheeler space.
Vehicles.
And this gave us the mission that we needed, basically, that in those early days, it was very clear that there were a lot of founders that were building very interesting, very mission-driven startups, which involved innovations in hardware, software, technology, all aimed at decarbonization of mobility and energy. And there were really no institutional investors, and I had come in with this background of working with private equity and hedge funds in Citibank, and here there was really a dearth of such investors. So I decided to make it my mission to really bring in these kind of investors to clean energy, clean mobility ecosystem, and to see how we could solution for these companies and startups, and how could we help them raise capital, much needed capital. I do believe that early stage ecosystem really needs that kind of growth capital to be able to take it to the next level. So that became really my mission.
Lovely.
When I started.
So great. So when in the morning you have offered water to you in a plastic bottle and you try to avoid it and you wanted water in a glass, is there something personal belief system or your early understanding which has brought you nearer to the EV industry and climate tech, or we would like to understand more about you personally? What attracts you about climate tech and EV?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think entrepreneurship is not easy and it has its ups and downs. And if you have to remain motivated over a long term and remain resilient and persistent, there has to be something deeper. And there has to be something that comes from a more deeper sense of purpose. So I definitely I give that credit to my upbringing, to my mother, because when we were brought up, we always were told to, or we were brought up with a sustainability mindset. We never remember having Coke bottles, plastic bottles filled with juices or ketchup or any of those things in our home. My mother used to make ketchups and jams at home. And we never had a cola drinking culture at home. Rarely we bought bread. I don't remember seeing bread in my early growing up years. So it was, one thing was not having plastic around a lot at home. The other was really growing up. I grew up early years in Lucknow, and then after class 10 in Bangalore. So both these cities had the culture, you carry your cloth bag to your shops. Even as things changed and we had malls and supermarkets, we would not go and pick up vegetables that came packaged in a cover as much as we could. So a lot of this really became part of day-to-day life. And it did make a lot of sense. Like even if you reused old clothes, or you either gave it to someone or you reused it in some other. So this whole culture of reuse, repurpose, and don't buy something that is bad for the environment did become a very deep thing, and it's just deepened over time. So this was my way really of combining my professional skill set as an investment banker with what was something that was anyway for me a deep passion and a way of living, really.
So that's the value system that drives you. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
It does, yeah.
So I was reading more about you, and I found that IESA recently awarded you as a top 40 women driving clean energy systems and other things. So could you tell us what was the reason, what was your contribution, and that they have awarded?
Yeah, I think they look at women which are making a difference in clean energy, and it's a very good initiative because they're looking for women leaders. And it's quite amazing that in so many areas in clean energy, there are women founders, women entrepreneurs, women leaders who are making a big difference, including people including women who are driving companies which are in solar or in carbon or carbon capture and so on and so forth. So there are lots of such women entrepreneurs. So I think their idea was that they should highlight and recognize that. I guess what in my case, it came from having worked a lot in the EV clean energy space and moving that needle forward through facilitating capital
Yeah.
into these companies.
Great, lovely.
Yeah.
So, before moving forward, when you mentioned that Greaves and this merger and acquisition deal that you were a part of, so I want to understand as a general merger and acquisition, whenever a deal is happening, so what are the once we start talking about the deal and gradually when people go into balance sheets and they try to understand the nitty-gritties of the deal, what are some key challenges that come? Could you share something about that?
Yeah, I mean, every deal has its own challenges, I think, because what happens in a deal is that there are at least two parties involved, and one for both of them, it has to become a win-win, right? And it has to be something that is synergistic for both sides, and that's the most important part of having a deal done. And there are various things involved, various vectors that really come out from it. Obviously, there are personalities, there are people, their own interests, which have to be managed, balanced, and respected. And then there are the whole numbers and the financials and the economics of it. Then there are various other sort of legal terms, conditions that also help in binding the deal together, making the balance happen. So essentially, it's these three components. It's people, it's numbers, and it's other terms and conditions, and basically the process in which this merger or deal would then live its life after the day of signing. So what we really do is, challenges come in many ways. Like, there could be potentially mismatch in expectations, everything from valuation to rights to so many aspects that go into a deal. Also, there can, I mean, potentially be challenges in what you project as your future revenues and profits and scale up. When you stress test that and you're making those assumptions, there could be differences of opinion around that. There could also be, potentially challenges around just how the company is going to be run, or what is the future strategy. There could be there are often multiple pathways open to
Correct.
post merger kind of strategy. So I think a lot of things come into it. What we did, especially in mergers, what we also look for is definitely things like technical pathway, technical roadmap.
Yeah.
It's important that, especially in EV, emerging space like EV, it's important that we think through what is going to be the next step for the company, what is going to be the next level of technology development, growth, roadmap. We also look at sales and GTM based roadmaps. How are you going to grow the company? So a lot of that goes into planning the pathway, and that will then feed into the deal dynamics itself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Agree.
it's a
Yeah.
complex sort of
Yes.
back and forth
Undoubtedly.
until the deal is done. Yeah.
Yes. So now that you have been into the EV space
Mhm.
and you might have been meeting a lot of people and founders in this space.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of news about the rare earth mineral, right? So how is India managing it right now? And are people looking to manufacture or extract more rare earth mineral here itself in India, or India is looking after some mergers and acquisitions, or maybe like partnerships with the foreign companies, something?
Yeah. It's not an easy thing. So maybe what we can do is take a few minutes to just, lay this out for your listeners and,
Yeah.
your audience. Rare earths are extracted from ores in different geological deposits across the world. And these rare earths are really elements which go into making a magnet, permanent magnet. Okay. And a permanent magnet is used in a motor, which is then used in EV or in defense vehicles or in multiple applications. Okay. So motors are used in robotics. I mean, there are tons and tons of applications.
Yes.
So this magnet is used inside the motor to to increase the efficiency of the motor. And therefore to help, essentially it is also energy efficiency. It helps in making that particular device or vehicle run as it should, and under different conditions of heat or high performance, etc. So when you need all of these to come together, you need permanent magnets to bring that efficiency and performance to the whatever the application may be. Let us take an EV. What has essentially happened is, while the ores from which rare earths are extracted are available in various parts of the world, the refining. So when you take it out from the ore, you have to refine it, you have to separate it, and you have to manufacture a magnet. Now these three steps are heavily concentrated in China.
Yeah.
And China has actually prepared or set up the infrastructure for all of these things in its in its own geography, and it has been over 95% of refining, separating, and manufacturing of magnets, which are then used by everybody around the world. That part of it is concentrated in China.
And I think it's similar to lithium, because lithium refinery also is concentrated in
Exactly.
China.
It is quite similar to lithium. So again, the ores are present in multiple places even for lithium, but the final purification, formation, cell manufacturing, all of that, China kind of controls. So this being the scenario, and as the world is going electric, and so many, I mean, everything has electronics in it. Every piece of electronics would need these elements. So how India has been, so essentially the way to look at it is to say, can we diversify the sources for refining, for manufacturing of magnets? Yes, we can. It's going to take longer. It's not going to be immediate. For the near term and medium term even, there is going to be a high dependency on one country or one part of the world. As we move forward, there are alternate pathways available to us. Firstly, that you obviously set up these refining capacities at scale. It's going to come with a lot of capex, and it's going to take some time. The other aspect is that you can always do recycling of magnets. And this is also possible if you can actually set up a very efficient value chain of second use or reusable magnets to come back into companies and system and then be reused and recycled. So that's also one way to actually sort of start to adapt to this very vast growing demand for magnets, right? Because you have to explore every possible channel that you have to increase your supply.
So what opportunities are you seeing from here onwards, whether it is rare earth magnet, say refining? Are you seeing some opportunities, or you might have met some startups which are into magnetless kind of motors that are also being spoken about a lot? So what are the opportunities that you see?
That is definitely also one, that it is possible to have switched reluctance motors or other types of motors which do not use permanent magnets. Those motors to be manufactured at scale and to be adopted at scale and to bring about, tested until they can bring the same level of efficiency as magnet motors, as well as have other challenges or reduce other challenges like noise or other things that happen with these different types of motors. I think that there is work being done for many years now, and work is in progress. We do believe that those scale-ups could make a dent also to this to this market need for and also help us in moving away from moving away from magnet motors. But overall, I would still say that for the immediate future, it seems like rare earths are going to remain important
and challenging also.
And challenging.
Yeah, true. So, Vasudha, one more, as we are talking about the EV space. So, battery as a service is coming out to be a very cost efficient and sustainable way of adoption in the EV segment, right? So, how it is going to help in the EV adoption? How are you seeing it? We want to understand your point of view on this.
I think India is a very large market. What we have seen in EV adoption over the years is that it has quite expectedly started with commercial use case adoption, right? Like it started with e-rickshaws, which was actually used for shared mobility and to give a livelihood to somebody, right? So it has been completely a commercial vehicle. It grew into two-wheelers and three-wheelers, L5s, which also have been used predominantly all the initial years of adoption, between 2015 to 2023 has all been commercial use case.
Yeah.
Even now, I think EV trucks, EV tractors, all of these are being used because they're cheaper to operate, more efficient on a sort of OPEX basis. They become economically quite attractive. So this economic attractiveness and lower TCO has been the reason for EVs to be adopted in India even before the cars come in, right? Cars are adopted for different reasons. It's either you're driven by clean mobility, the need for clean mobility, or it's just a better machine to drive. Potentially, obviously, also cheaper to operate. But
Yes.
the economics are not the toppest reason for you to buy it. Whereas in the commercial use case, that is the biggest reason for anyone to adopt it, right? In this scenario, what has happened now, given that this is the case, it becomes eminently feasible that if you remove the battery out from the vehicle, that makes the vehicle that much more cheaper.
Yes.
Right. So, and the battery, as we know, is 40 to 60% of the cost of the vehicle, price of the vehicle, so it is also something that if you can solution for it in slightly a different way, which is you convert that capex into opex for the user, then it becomes easier to adopt for the user. So that is where battery as a service, energy as a service has come in. And I think we have seen this kind of adopt in two-wheeler, three-wheeler, situations. Four-wheelers, it's slightly tougher because batteries are much heavier. You need robotic, swapping and all
Movements.
of that. Yeah, which becomes more challenging. And I think to even store and charge those batteries is not going to be easy. So two and three-wheelers, because India is one of the few countries in the world where these form 75-80% of our entire automotive on the road. It becomes a solution which can be scaled up, and I think it has been scaling up. Where we do see challenges is that if battery prices start to come down, and then it could kind of make it a bit more attractive for people to lease it or to buy it. So we do have a mix of these solutions today available in the market, right? Everything from battery swapping to battery leasing to to actually there are models in which you can actually pay by the kilometer or pay per use and so on. So converting the vehicle's battery into OPEX.
Yeah. Just like we have seen this MG, one of the car models, we have seen that
Yeah.
they're asking for monthly cost rather than taking the complete cost at a time.
Yeah, correct. So it makes sense. And India being a large market, even if you capture a part of it, a sliver of it, I think you can still create a scaled up company with good economics.
Great.
Yeah.
So over next 5 years, how are you seeing this market evolving? How are you seeing that, say, in 2032, what kind of market it will be? How do you see about that?
I think charging infrastructure is coming up in a big way, right? So in this scenario, what will happen is that every auto rickshaw, every car, the stress about where am I going to find my charging station is going to go away. And that I think most of the big charge point operators have quite ambitious plans to set up charging stations all over India, whether it is on highways or neighborhoods and so on. There is a good growth in India towards renewable electricity. So I'm guessing that I'm presuming that over the next few years, the grid will become more and more cleaner, and that will help us in not only increasing the availability of power to all of these use cases, but also obviously making it cleaner source of electricity. So this combining with more and more EVs on the street and more charging. So my sense is that the vaster scale up is going to happen in charging and sort of a fast charging kind of infrastructure coming up where people can do quick top ups. There will be a growth and an increase in battery as a service, and that will happen in, again, like I said, well defined use cases like shared mobility or logistics in big cities, where there's going to be no time. If you need zero downtime, you need to be constantly on the road, then you're going to need charging swapping stations. And so that I think will have its own market for the gig worker, for the rickshaw driver, for the logistics use case and so on. So I think And that will form a probably 10, 15, 20% of the market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vasudha, as I come from the EV space, I meet lot of founders, and I've seen that they are making some excellent vehicles, from design and sustainability and everything. Right, these founders try to raise capital, and what I'm seeing is they are really finding it difficult to raise capital. So where do you see there is a gap? Is it because of the bigger players betting a lot of money into this segment, or there is something else? So what is the gap, do you think it is happening?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my initial part of my, Ostara journey has really been about, helping startups, or really rooting for startups that are trying to disrupt legacy automotive industry. And I think that has really happened. Almost the entire EV revolution has been thanks to startups taking up the challenge of technological innovation, and then of going through the struggles of growing their companies, accessing the market and the consumer, and then making it into a viable large player, right? So this challenge is not easy for a startup. You are competing with the big incumbents, the big companies in the marketplace, with established supply chains and distribution. So and when this happens, all you need is, I mean, what you don't have is capital, which when they have everything else. So you need capital, and you need to set up these things. So I think, see, in the journey of a startup, right? And you're innovating something, you're disrupting something, an existing industry. So what do? You start with a product. Obviously, many of our startups have come up with EV startups, came up with very advanced or very innovative or very good for the user use case, purpose built vehicles, right? This came out of a lot of research into various components, as well as into the vehicle itself, and so on. So the product was developed by many of them, which was good. So essentially what happens is, when the startup is doing its product development, at that phase, they are raising funding to actually get the product certified, to get a good prototype out, and so on, and actually go into R&D design. Those are the elements that they are raising funding for. And that part of it does not need a very large amount of funding. At that time, you are requiring 2, 3, 4, 5, maximum 5, 7, $10 million. In India, it has always been very frugal. All these startups have done a lot of product development in a very frugal manner. Okay, and we can name many startups in 2 and 3 wheelers which did those early years of innovation in the entire drivetrain, the vehicle itself, so many aspects of the electronics, the hardware, and so on. So that part of it does not require a lot of funding. Risk capital has been difficult to get, but it is relatively easier at that phase of the startup. Okay. Right? When startups start to scale, now you have a product which is certified, which is ready to go to market, you're starting to build an order book for it, etc. Now you need to manufacture and put it out there. This is when you need to raise like 20, 25, $30 million of additional capital. Again, these are all very Indian terms. In the US, these numbers are orders of magnitude larger, because people are raising in hundreds of millions at that stage. But we typically then look at a 20, 30, $40 million kind of a fundraise, which could be Series A or thereabouts. And that is when you're really going from 10, 20, 30 units or something to you're trying to scale up your manufacturing. At this stage, what starts to happen is, yes, you need capex, because you're manufacturing at scale. You need to have the factory, supply chain, and all set up. And you need to start now setting up your distribution, and you need to be available in the market to all the consumers. You need to have after sales. So all of this comes branding. So at this stage, when you need to have the cheapest possible cost of procurement of components, there it is always the case that the incumbent with existing supply chain will always win over you, because your quantities are small. You will order in small batches, and your prices, your costing will be always more expensive. So these challenges, you can say, is probably the toughest part of the journey of the OEM to get over, or to be able to win over these challenges. So there is the distribution, the supply chain, the branding, and the after sales. So this is when you can say, quote unquote, grow up from being a product focused company to you're trying to win in the marketplace. And here now you're facing headwinds from a lot of incumbents. So this scenario is where capital becomes rather more risk averse. Okay, so the funds that are at that point looking to invest will now perceive all of these risks, and will either look for very high returns which are commensurate for those risks, or they are just staying a little bit cautious. So this journey is not easy for the startup to do. It is not easy to convince the investor at this point. At this point, we typically start to explore some form of strategic participation in the round, which means that somebody who can bring more than just capital brings in either distribution or sales support, or supply chain support or something like that. And this kind of really becomes a turning point for the EV OEM in terms of the fundraising journey. And we've done a lot of work as Ostara Advisors. We've done a lot of work to really educate, to inform, to convince the investor community across the world. We engaged with a lot of a lot of investors around the world to support companies which are at that Series A, Series B stages. And we have had several notable successes, but also some places where things didn't work out as planned. And this is the reason. The reason being that incumbents start to come in, those risks become major perceived risks by the investors. How will the company take it from 10 to 100 and then scale up from there? It's not always easy. So then you're taking a much larger bet, because margins will start to show only at much larger scale of operations, because you tend to be cash burning at that stage. So these things make it slightly more challenging, or far more challenging, you can say, to raise funding at that stage. So it is just that it is just how the things are. I mean,
True.
That's how the markets have evolved.
So what I have seen is there are very, very technically sound founders who come out of colleges and they build like something really amazing. But as soon as they have developed something, and when it goes to manufacturing of those products or at a scale, there where I see is they lack expertise and see this thing. So are the investors pulling out of that phase, or where is the gap? Is there some specific gap that you would like to mention wherein these startups are not getting the money?
I think the startups, at least the way things have evolved in India, right? Capital flows have been there, but companies have to build very frugally, which we are good at. Our founders are good at. You need to start to show, even at a smaller scale, investors expect you to show good, strong unit economics, which means that you are not burning truckloads of cash on every unit you sell. You are starting to have a pathway to at least having some control on your supply chain, distribution, etc., and your your supplier relationships and so on. And you are starting to grow the market on the back of your product. So now a product is good, right, in and of itself, but can it attract a customer? If you can show some proof points at a very early stage, that either through the B2B channels or B2C channels or whatever, you are able to show that works, along with showing other aspects of readiness for the market, like you have got a good certified product, homologated, ready to go. You have sorted out some key supply chain relationships. So if you can show that readiness and show that the customer pool exists, I think you can succeed in kind of raising a bit more, or the next level of capital, and then it gets a bit more easier. But overall, I think the journey is not easy, because to grow it to kind of success stories like Ather and Ola, I think those are breakout and standout stories in that sense, and deserve all our respect for having done that journey successfully.
True. As AI is evolving and data centers are becoming a very energy intensive hubs right now, so how can India balance between the innovation that is happening, AI adoption, versus the clean energy and decarbonization goals, so whatever we have? So what is your view on this?
Yeah, I think, I mean, definitely with greater use of AI and data being used and stored in all kinds of use cases, data centers and servers are becoming increasingly major investments for all these companies. Every company that you think of as a software company is actually becoming a hardware company now. Like they own everything. Google, Meta, these are folks, Microsoft, these people own data centers. They own, they even own energy production. So, they produce their own energy to supply to these data centers. So, in a way, we are looking at a very, it's an inexorable move in the direction of more data centers. I don't think that's going to have, reverse anytime soon. And it is true that these are energy guzzling. Every AI query that you run, uses up water and uses up more energy than a simple Google query would have earlier.
Yeah.
So an AI query is 10 times more energy guzzling than a Google query, right? So in that sense, this is just exploding right now, and it's going to continue in that pathway. So what do we do, right? So energy is required to run data centers, energy is required to cool down data centers. Now, running them, the more clean energy, even for clean energy, solar is not exactly without a carbon footprint. It requires, elements, that have to be mined, that have to be, even the manufacturing of panels itself is not, entirely clean.
Yeah.
As it's true for anything. I mean, as long as you're doing any kind of producing manufacturing on the planet, we are going to be using resources.
True.
And it's never going to be completely no footprint, right? I think that's not happening. But what you can do is, so essentially there are these two places, right? So you need energy to run the data center, then you need energy to cool down the data center. So a lot of innovations are happening in these areas. Firstly, companies, the big global majors, which are sort of hyperscalers like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, these companies are essentially looking at alternate sources of clean energy which can fuel their data centers. Like nuclear energy is being explored in a big way, right? Then for cooling down the data centers, advanced cooling technologies. So you have a lot of things from actually, the most basic way is air cooling, but you can actually look at having plates in between the data racks through which you let in a dielectric kind of a fluid which actually will absorb the heat coming out of the data racks, and then send it out.
Okay.
So these kind of innovative sort of solutions. Or you can have phase change materials which can actually have which can store energy for a while, or basically suck out the heat exchangers. So there are multiple solutions. In fact, the latest I read was they are also were exploring underwater data centers to use fresh water. I mean, again, it's using the planet's resources, but using these lakes, or using sources of water to actually naturally cool down the data centers. Immersive cooling is another technology. So I think multiple ways are being explored. What we can do about it, which will be a step in the positive direction, is really look for innovations in AI which use less compute. I think compute efficient AI should be a major area for innovation, so that we actually per query, whatever, the use of compute becomes lesser, and therefore the need for all of this data centers and so on becomes lesser. And obviously the second most important thing we need to do is renewable energy, and kind of start having, basically energy needs are growing, so you got to produce energy one way or the other, and the lesser coal is being used and the more renewable is being used, the better.
Correct. Undoubtedly. So how do you see AI contributing to climate tech, whether in optimizing energy grids, enabling predictive maintenance, or in, say, driving sustainable manufacturing?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I think AI has a big role to play in many parts of climate tech. We most recently announced a deal in a company called Routematic, where AI plays a role in fleet optimization. So using this, we are actually on regular vehicles that are managing employee transport for large companies with big workforces. We are actually able to reduce the number of vehicles used to run a number of trips, or run the fleet much more efficiently.
Okay.
This itself can play a big role in reducing number of vehicles on the road, reducing pollution. this algorithm can also help in optimizing and using EVs better, because you can utilize the EVs for across a larger number of trips. So this is just one small tiny example,
Yes.
and it wasn't even a classical climate tech example, but we realized that there is interest in a company like this, investor interest. Other many use cases exist. I mean, today AI is being used in actually analyzing data that comes out of a vehicle and how it is running and being utilized, and like you rightly said, in predictive maintenance. So every part of the EV will throw up data, either on the hardware side of it, how various components are performing, or what are the uses actually, how the vehicle is being used, and the driving patterns and so on. So all of this information, usage and the hardware performance information, can actually be pulled out, can be taken out into a cloud, and then AI based algorithms can actually evaluate basis parameters to see how the vehicle is performing, and is there any sign or signal for something to go wrong in the
Yeah.
vehicle, right? And if you can actually track these parameters closely and have a clear idea of which parameters connected to which vehicle, part of the vehicle or usage, then you can actually feed that information back to the user, or you can feed it back to a maintenance team, which can either predictively solve for it or call for the vehicle to be brought into the workshop, or just do an over the air update to sort it out. So I think AI can have, it's basically a self monitoring mechanism for the vehicle, right?
True.
And that's just one use case. Then in broader areas of climate tech, we are seeing use cases where AI can be used in energy efficiency. For instance, if you have a large building, like an airport, or you have a large factory with multiple machines, in both of these scenarios you have a use of energy, or various ways in which energy is being used, and AI can play an important role in actually monitoring all of these energy uses on an ongoing basis, and seeing where the mismatches are happening, where it is either being wasted, or it is not adequate, or it is causing imbalances in the overall sort of system, leading to shortage of energy, shortage of electricity, etc. So if you can actually manage to again have a real time monitoring of energy use in these large energy use locations, then it is something that we can actually take preemptive actions
True.
to shut down something, or to shift or to even say that, okay, this particular appliance or factory use is actually more energy is energy inefficient, and we should do something about it. So I think there is, digitally, if you can monitor how energy is getting used in a building or in a factory or in various other places, I think there is a way to and this can be done through a combination of IoT devices, edge gateways, and cloud software, where you can actually operate this.
So if you take an example of electric vehicle versus an ICE vehicle, it was used earlier. So the data available in the ICE vehicles was very less. When we see the electric vehicles, there a lot of data is available.
Yeah,
So
correct.
when a lot of data is available, then AI can play a lot of better roles here.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's correct. Yeah.
India has got a great AI ambition, and definitely it is going to impact the climate a lot. So do you think that we need to set up a very clear roadmap on the usage of AI versus the kind of infrastructure that we are trying to build, and versus the impact on the climate? What is your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we are ready for this AI revolution that has already started, and every consumer today is using it in some way or the other. Even if you put in a simple, use your phone in a simplest possible way, there's probably an AI running at the back of it. So, and add to that India is a very large and growing market, huge number of consumers coming into the digital world, and there is a huge move towards localization of data, to be present in data centers locally, onshore rather than offshore. These are going to be huge reasons why we need to start thinking about how do we handle this.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I said earlier, we need to have innovations which can be compute efficient, which can actually, and we can have innovations that use AI to really create efficiency, to bring down resource use. And therefore, even if you're using more AI, you're using it for some benefit, and you're using it to reduce the wastage in some way, or if bring about efficiency in some other process, right? So therefore there can be a very nice balancing impact, that at one end you are using AI, which is using up more energy, more data centers, but on the other side you're using it for productivity, efficiency, and so on. So therefore there could potentially be a balancing out, and hopefully it's a net positive if we can also bring in the third big element, which is renewable energy, into the mix, and make it more widespread. I think those things could really help us create a more sustainable AI future, which I think we are headed towards.
Great. So when we see the world scenario, right? So adopting of AI is also very critical for any nation. So when we are talking about adopting AI, do you think that policy wise or infrastructure wise, there are some challenges that India may face? Because we need, on one side, we need to understand that we have to take care of sustainability also, and on the other hand, adopting is also very important. So what is the government role that you are seeing that need to come forward in this particular, while laying the roadmap of the adoption?
I think regulations in these things, it's tough to kind of regulate it upfront. Like, as things evolve, as usage evolves, you start to see, the implications of it, and then you start to regulate it. I think at this point, things like, privacy of data, and is it being used to train models, or what happens really to something you put out there, but you don't know whether it is being stored and used, or it is. So those are, I think, the first part of like privacy norms. I think India has also now got the DPDP framework. So I think that is going to be the first wave of regulation. Later we'll probably start to see around energy effective AI infrastructure and things like that. But right now I think the priority and the focus is more on privacy of data, responsible use of data, responsible use of AI in its final applications, and how is it, and there'll be all kinds of implications, from mental health to energy. I mean,
True.
It's going to be a range of implications.
Yeah. This segment of climate tech is at inflection point that we are able to see right now. In the startups in this space, what kind of challenges they are facing right now, do you think, from the perspective of funding, scalability, or sustainability in this space?
Yeah. So see, climate tech is a very contrary to, people have often told me, oh, you run such a niche, kind of a outfit. And I'm like, no, climate tech is a very broad space because it impacts every single industry, every single product that you're today using, or an industry is getting built in that, right? Or there is a legacy industry. So climate tech, or the use of sustainability, is applicable to a very wide range of sectors, industry sectors. And innovations are happening in so many parts of it. Like we are looking at everything from, now we are looking from alternative fuels, which can actually, the whole waste to energy revolution, how can we do that? I think a lot of companies are working in this area, where they're converting either agri-produce, agri-waste, or kitchen waste and our daily municipal solid waste into energy, which is replacing fossil fuel energy in the grid. And these are very valuable businesses, innovations, process innovations. Many of them may not have a very high level of IP, but it can even have process innovation or a business model innovation, which helps in changing the game completely and helping us decarbonize, right? Very valuable. The other side of it, we are looking at circular economy, where everything from fast fashion, unfortunately, is not good for the planet, but people are adopting it. Now, what can you do with with fabrics that are discarded much faster than before? And you actually have to now think about solutions for that, because as the industry is growing of fast fashion, you have to figure out what do we do with all of these discarded fabrics and so on. Similarly, we have already a legacy problem of plastics, whether it is PET bottles, or it is post-consumer waste kind of plastics, or it is industrial plastics, which are just part of the refuse supply chain. So in all of these cases, companies are building innovative businesses, startups, to basically either look at avoiding it or using it and reusing it in a profitable way. And so the challenge is really in finding effective feedstock sources, using either innovative technology or proven technology to process these waste streams, and then to create something which can be used as good as new by the enterprise or the end consumer. In all of this, I think startups are working, and we are seeing that slowly, right, with every positive step that's taken in this direction. There is definitely growth that's happening, and these challenges are getting resolved one after another. So
Okay.
overall, I think while there are challenges, I think with every startup making another profitable year or a growth year in revenue, I think challenges are being broken down.
And how about the policies of Government of India? Are these supportive, or do you see any positive steps from the government support kind of this thing?
I think there has been fantastic support from the Indian government across a range of sectors. We have seen things like critical mineral mission, which is helping, which is expected to encourage battery materials recycling. Okay, we have seen even in the biofuels production, we have seen subsidies that are coming into the companies for setting up these compressed biogas plants. So I think in multiple areas there are subsidies from the government, there is support from the government, there are grants, etc., which are coming in to actually, these play a very important role in two big ways. One is, of course, they are helping in reducing the impact on the planet by reusing and converting it to something which can be used again. The second part is it is making India more energy and resource independent. We can reduce imports of either fossil fuel or other things that we are importing from outside by having these recycling industries within our country. So I see this as a very big, it's a huge, massive investment opportunity, business opportunity for the next several decades for us to become more independent as we become more and more consuming, and we grow as a country and as an economy. So I think circular economy is definitely a massive investment opportunity today.
So we have seen whenever I cross across whenever I'm traveling from Noida to Gurgaon and some of the places, we see huge chunk of the waste that lies, the urban waste
Landfill.
that is there. So have you come across some startups that are very, very interesting and that they are trying to convert this into fuel or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are working currently as we speak, we're working with a company that is reducing landfills. So what happens is, the waste that goes out from our homes, right? It's either plastic, paper, packaging, food boxes, etc., etc., which I request everybody to use less of, but that is a big waste source that goes out, packaging, Amazon boxes. The other is kitchen waste or wet waste or food waste and so on and so forth. So now these all of these waste streams, if they are source segregated, which means in our homes we at least have like some form of segregating these separately and sending it out, that really helps in the end use of it. Once you get out, once it gets into the waste management ecosystem, there are meaningful ways to separate it and make it into actually a feedstock or an input into a profitable business. Okay, so for instance, the landfill, otherwise it basically hits the landfill.
Yes.
And what happens when organic waste hits the landfill, for instance, is that it is sitting there and rotting, and large mountains of it, and it is emitting methane. And methane is many times more poisonous than carbon dioxide. Okay, so essentially, with putting all of this stuff out into landfill, even our kitchen waste, which we think is organic, it's what's the worst?
Yeah.
It is emitting methane. So what we have come across is one, and the company that we are working with right now to help them raise funding, are really focusing on taking this municipal solid waste away from the landfills, avoiding it ever reaching the landfill, and it goes to the factory instead, where they convert it into compressed biogas. And this biogas is already being used by large industrial houses for their requirements in factories. So it's directly replacing fossil fuel. It is also going into CNG bunks, where it's directly replacing natural gas by circular use of waste becoming energy and going into vehicles. Okay, and the residues go directly back to the farmers, where instead of using chemical fertilizers, these things add carbon back into the soil, which has become carbon deficient. So it's a great form of not only creating clean energy, it's also helping in carbon capture. So this entire circular way, we've also looked at companies which convert plastics through technologies like pyrolysis back into hydrocarbons, which means that you can take plastic, you can treat it or convert it in a way that it goes back to the crude oil form, where it can then start to become virgin plastic again. So this reduces the long 700-800 years of long tail of plastic, which is how long that it lasts in the atmosphere after you throw it out of your house. So it's not going
Yes.
anywhere. So those are some of the innovations that we as Ostara Advisors are really keen to support, really keen to see that we can find interested investors and for these founders to create profitable, valuable businesses.
But one question that surrounds to me as a businessman,
Yeah.
I have been into business since a long time, and what I believe is generally, I don't want to generalize this statement, but what I've seen is people are not concerned about the environment at all. And if a business like this becomes profitable, then for sure adaptability of that business will increase, and maybe if these startups are provided investments with for the growth capital,
Yeah.
right, if they have an access for this capital, that may grow.
Mm.
So my question is that, are these startups really profitable or can become profitable? Because the process of converting the waste into a fuel,
Yeah.
I have not come across with directly seeing the process of, but it seems to be a long process to convert these things. So what is your say that are these really profitable or can become profitable? What is your view?
Yeah, so some startups and some companies have already proven profitability in these areas, because actually for instance, converting organic waste into methane, biomethane is not the most complex process.
Okay.
It is something that can be done with some level of discipline in a decently modular size, smaller plant also. You don't need very large capex. So it depends on the type of investment you need to make. There are some processes which need more larger capex, but in almost many of these areas, what we have seen is companies that can create modular replicable structures and lock in the feedstock are able to create fairly valuable and profitable businesses from an early stage in their companies. And this obviously encourages smaller rounds of funding to happen, and then as sort of these things get more and more replicated, we start to see larger and larger rounds of funding. And today the good thing is India is in the global eye for investments. It is becoming a magnet for global investments, and that's fantastic tailwind that we should benefit from, and help not only our country decarbonize, but also send these solutions out into the world. The good news is we are seeing profitable companies coming out.
Lovely. Vasudha, as a woman entrepreneur in the climatic space, what have been some defining moments for you being a founder at Ostara Advisors? Could you please share some?
Yeah, thanks. It's been an interesting journey. I mean, in my case, I have not let gender come in the way of my, purpose and passion. And I think climate impact is not something which impacts you by depending on your gender. So it is something that impacts all of us. And for me, this has been a mission. This is something that combines both my professional competencies and skill set along with my own passions, and I'm very keen, and of course in our area, in this particular area, you need to have financial acumen, you need to have deep technical understanding and a mind to actually understand technologies which are innovative, which are disrupting existing legacy technologies, and these are skill sets that are equally possible for a woman as for a man. So I'm a big supporter of adding more women to the workforce. I've tried to encourage more women, more girls to join my team. My team in the initial years, even now we're predominantly women. So I think what I believe is that it is possible for, and these are new opportunities, these are new industries, new areas, great for women, aspiring women professionals to join the workforce, to stay in the workforce, to get themselves upgraded on these areas, to just learned. I mean, all of us have to continually learn. It's something that it's true for all of us. So, why not use this for a segment of society which has so far been out of the workforce? It's a
Correct.
great opportunity. Defining moments, I think working with Hemalata, the first woman founder in the electric two-wheeler industry, on the very first deal that I did in the space, I think that has been a defining moment. I was inspired by her mission, her passion, how she had built the company. I have met along the way other women founders in my space, in my broader areas. It's always inspiring to see a woman investor on the other side of the table, to who's evaluating the opportunities that we are presenting to them. I think we definitely need more women in the space, and we are doing at Ostara, we do everything that we can.
So I think it has been an interesting conversation with you, Vasudha. Thank you for being here with us, and maybe we will have more conversation with you in coming future
Absolutely.
whenever we are able to find
Thank you, Sachin.
time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.